So Jill, how you been?
I'm great.
Yeah, I see folk bike life and stuff, man. Hey, folks out here, man.
Gotta do something. Stay sane these days.
It's hard to find a bike. I was telling JR, I can't even find no bike. I don't even own one, man.
Yeah, it's tough these days.
I went to the bike shop. Buddy said holler at him in August. I was like, bruh,
Yeah,
I ain't even like
I was trying to
the
buy my
moment is
kids.
past. I'll be back at work by then.
I was trying to buy my kids one, and they were.
I ain't trying to get one of them heavy ass like Walmart Huffy bikes or whatever, man. Like, nah, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So
All right, here we go. Let's kick it off.
Yeah, I thought we was already live.
Yeah, we are live.
All right,
I gotta introduce everybody.
Oh, hey, go ahead, brother.
I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Welcome to Lapeef Let's Talk. We have Tawana, Anton, B Nix, and we have a special guest that's joined us today, Jillian. How you guys doing?
we're doing good.
How you
How
guys
you
feeling
doing,
good?
JR?
I'm doing excellent, man. No complaints.
That's
I'm in
great.
good spirits right now. Like I'm amongst some fabulous people. It's gonna be a great night. It's gonna be a great night.
Okay. Hey, you know how to make folks feel good, man.
Hey, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. We got to warm everybody up. All right, so you guys know what's been going on as far as with this Meg situation. It was an incident and everybody seemed to be talking about it. I just want to kind of get you guys' thoughts on that Meg situation. Tawana, how you feel about what happened?
I mean, obviously, I feel some sort of compassion for her and empathy for her and what she went through. And I don't think anyone deserves to be, shot for whatever reason. That escalated. But I also feel like, what type of circle does she surround herself in where she even allowed something like that to, happen to her? And what was the circumstance? And that was not really reported. So I just, I'm trying to just understand the trauma she went through and just, go from there.
Okay. Appreciate that. B Next, let me get your take on it. How you feel about the Meg situation? When you first heard it, how did it come off to you?
First thing is I don't know all the details. So that was the part that I felt more reserved because it's like, hell, I feel it made me feel old. I didn't even know they was even together like that, man. So I mean, for one, it was like, oh, obviously I'm not in the loop. But for two, it's one of those that, in folks' relationships or partnership, whatever you want to call it, based on what was released, it sounds like a messed up situation, but I didn't know all the details. The thing is, I don't think, regardless of how serious or how long they've been together, it never should come to that. I think, if anything, folks grown, folks are mature. I know both those two individuals are younger than most of the people on this panel, but at the end of the day, hey, they got way more responsibility and have way more impact than the five of us. So the thing is, you got to do better on both hands, but specifically to, pulling out a weapon. It should never come to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Anton, how you feel about it when you first heard it?
I think my biggest thing was just like not to rush to judgment as it relates to getting the other side of the story. Of course, I'm compassionate. And of course, I don't feel like anybody should be a victim of any kind of gun violence. But I think that at the same time, it's important for a lot of people to hold off until they get both sides of the story. A lot of times people only see it from one perspective. You know what I'm saying? They only get, and again, that don't mean that, she's not right or he's not wrong. But at the same time, I think that context is everything. And until you get the context, nobody can really get, the full understanding or be able to make an effective evaluation of the whole situation. So while everybody is quick to, make an evaluation as far as saying that he wrong or this and that and so on and so forth, and that may very well be the case. But at the same time, I'm not the person that is quick to throw somebody under the bus just because that's what the majority of the people say. So for me, I'm willing to wait to get both sides of the story because the truth is somewhere in there. And then at that point, then I'm able to make a better assessment. But, I'm never one to quick to throw, for example, Tory Lanez under the bus because nobody really knows all of the details. So I want to get it from his perspective, because I think that men are underrepresented as it relates to, it's that people are quicker to throw men under the bus than they are women. So I just want to get both sides of the story.
Okay, I can understand that. Jill, when you first heard that story, tell me, how did it make you feel and what you think about it?
I was enraged. I think that they are in the public eye, and so the story got a lot of attention, but I think it's a small microcosm of what Black women have to deal with consistently as it relates to not being protected by Black men. And I'm not necessarily talking about Black men that we are intimate with or, in a relationship with. I'm talking about fathers, uncles, brothers, cousins, strangers, Black men in general that don't, protect us for whatever reason, right? And it's not all of them. I want to be clear in saying that. It's not everybody, but I think the fact that so many Black women are able to speak to specific instances where they don't feel protected, I think means that it's something that needs to be addressed within the community.
Okay. I appreciate that. I just wanted to ask you guys this question, and this is based off what happened like that particular night. Do you think that Meg, that she brought this energy to herself? I'm going to start with you, Tawana.
You always start with me, huh? Okay. Do I think she brought the energy to herself? Yes, that's the short answer, right? I do think that she is responsible for the men she chooses to be in her life, and she's responsible for who she wants to date. So to answer your question, yes. Do I think that justify his actions? Absolutely not. And do I think that still is domestic violence is still a huge issue and something that we need to look into and we need to talk about as a community? Absolutely. I just think that you have to take accountability for the types of people that you have in your circle. And I do think that Meg did not take responsibility for that. I do think that she was traumatized, and I do think that she deserves empathy and sympathy. I just think that she didn't take accountability for that decision she made.
Anton, I want to ask you the same question. Did she bring this energy into her life?
I don't know. Maybe you should come back to me, because I'm not gonna say the politically
Hey, we could stay with Anton, but hey, could we define energy though? Like, because I'm still trying to process the question as if you asked me, even though you didn't. But I just I just wanted to insert. Could you kind of define energy for me?
Okay. Yeah.
For the group, please.
Okay, no problem. So everything that she raps about basically is geared towards men. I think me and Anton spoke about this before as well. So just basically like everything that she raps about towards men, and then it's kind of playing out somewhat in her life to an extent. So when I say energy, meaning like, did she bring this energy into her life herself? Did that answer your question?
For me, I can't speak for Anton.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Well, go ahead, B next.
All right. No. Go ahead. I'm gonna just go ahead and dive right into this, because I'm not here to be playing no games. So
sure.
When you talk about energy, you know what I'm saying? Let me be clear. Again, I don't think that anybody should be shot for any reason. That's just real. I don't care if you're a man. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're Black, you white. Nobody should just be shot unless you protecting yourself. Like, you protecting your home, somebody break in, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. But as it relates to energy, right? I do think that she brought that type of energy. And the thing that I always have the conversation with, I was having a conversation with, my chick today, and I was just telling her, well, I asked her a question, and I said, how come it, you never have ever been in that type of situation? How come you've never been in a situation where you've never felt protected? How come you've never been in a circumstance where you've had to hold a man or somebody else accountable for the circumstances that you find yourself in? And she said that it's basically because she's proactive and the things that she allows herself to be around. So when you talk about, yeah, that type of energy, right? Energy specifically as you defined it, of course she brought it on herself. This isn't a situation where most women are in circumstances where they choose their partner, right? We're not talking about a little kid. We're not talking about somebody who couldn't, pick their father. We're talking about somebody that perpetuates a certain type of behavior, right? They subject themselves and insert themselves into circumstances where there's certain energy around them, and then there's consequences that come along with it. So if you're saying that she deserved this to happen to her, absolutely not. But you are what you put out. If you subject yourself and you insert yourself in the circumstances where there's violence in a certain area, there is a strong possibility that violence is going to happen around you. And then there's a smaller possibility that may happen to you. You may get caught up in something, even though you're not necessarily the person that is instigating it or perpetuating it. So yeah, of course she has brought this type of energy on herself. That's the absolute truth about the situation.
Okay, I appreciate that. Next, what were you going to say? Did she bring that energy to herself?
No. I mean, we talking about entertainment. It's lyrics, man. Like it's like wrestling. Like it's not real. Like it's lyrics. The thing is, like, hey, if the lyrics, that's the entertainment side as far as her as a person. If anything, it really goes back to Tory Lanez, the fact that like we're all creatures of habit, us as human beings. We do things off habit. If you do it once, you've probably done something like this before. So the thing is, it's like, man, as an individual, him being a man in this case, that if you feel that mad that whatever she said or whatever energy was being given off, that's your response. To me, that's a punk move right there. It's like, hey, like regardless of the circumstance, regardless of, what lyrics she had or the way she dressed, yeah, that's entertainment. But hey, if that's what she likes, she wants to do, cool. The thing is, folks got to have more social emotional intelligence. The thing is, on both accounts, not just on her, but then it's like, does that justify the behavior? This almost, I don't want to take us another direction. This almost kind of reminds me of just the justification around rape culture, right? Where we see people say like, oh, she was raped, but like she was giving off that energy that it just happened that way. Like, nah, it still don't make it right. It ain't no energy.
God, we're not gonna do this politically.
Yeah, I did take it there. I am conflating the two, but I feel like it's the same approach in which you look at it. Okay, I just said it is. Okay. So the thing is, it shows right there. It's like, hey, folks still have to be responsible of their own actions, regardless. It's almost like, hey, we talked about it even with attractiveness that you may see in someone. Just because you may see someone that's attractive or you're upset about something, that doesn't mean you always have to act on it. You have to be the mature individual to have your own social emotional intelligence to understand that, you know what, I can't be this person. So the thing is, if he did it once, is one of those, to me, how do we know this hasn't happened before and it hadn't been documented or hadn't been reported? So to me, the energy, hey, it's nothing but, nonsense, man.
You're telling me, B-Nix, based off of what you just described, you're telling me that there's no level of responsibility of the circumstances that you put yourself in. And again, I'm not emphasizing that something should have happened to her, especially this type of thing. But you telling me you have no level of responsibility of the circumstances that you put yourself in?
No, when I said earlier, I said on both accounts. I mentioned when the social emotional intelligence is on both accounts. But from my lens, based on the outcome in which she got shot, that part, it should never take it there. So to me, whatever energy she was giving off for that to be the outcome, no, that is not her fault. Like for her, like the thing is like the fact that she's putting out energy to make somebody want to shoot her. Wow.
No, but nobody. But
okay, I can understand. Hold on, Anton. Before we get in, I want to get Jill's take on it. Jill, do you feel as though she brought that energy onto herself?
Absolutely not. Two quick things. One is I think we have to be very mindful and careful of victim blaming. And I think I'm with B-Nix. We could, parallel it to rape culture. We could parallel it to police brutality. We could parallel it to a lot of things. I think it's easy to point the finger. at like the victim and say, well, what did you do, right? And this was part of what I talked about in my live. It's like, you know, I'm screaming, oh, he raped me, and people are asking, well, what did you have on, and why were you there so late, and what were you doing out? Like, I don't care if I walk down the street naked. Don't put your hands on me. Like, I think that's part of the issue that I'm having around this whole Protect Black Women movement. And I think the second piece is it's a catch-22, right? So I'm hearing people say, you know, she need to take accountability for, you know, the man that she chose to date. But like, I don't know Torey personally. I'm sure she didn't sign up and be like, oh, I'm gonna date this dude that's gonna shoot me, right? Like, it's like you tell us we single because we too picky and choosy. We choosing a book, you know, trying to judge a book by its cover, but then we give somebody an opportunity and now it's our fault because we chose wrong. Like, what y'all want from us? Like, I mean, I just think that, you know, and I'm not excusing her responsibilities at all. Of course, she's a grown woman. She gets to pick and choose. I also believe in grace, and I believe in mercy, and I believe people can change. And so I can't say if this is the first time he's abused her in some sort of way. And I also know a whole lot of data out there around why women choose to stay. We know it's a psychological warfare. Nobody wants to get beat up and shot and abused. Like, there are very real reasons why people stay. So I just think, you know, in summary, we got to be careful with blaming the victim. And part two is like catch-22. Like, you want us to give our Black men a chance, and we do that, and then now all of a sudden it's our fault because we got abused. Like, I'm no, she didn't bring the energy on her, no form of fashion.
Okay, I appreciate that. Today's topic is, are Black women protected? Are Black women protected? And Meg, she had a tweet out. I'm gonna show it for you guys. Give me 1 second while I share it. Can you guys see it? All right. It says, Black women are so unprotected, and we hold so many things in to protect the feelings of others without considering our own. It might be funny to y'all on the internet and just another messy topic for you to talk about, but this is my real life, and I'm real life hurt and traumatized. Again, the topic is, are Black women protected? Jilly, I want to start with you. Can you answer that question for me, please?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I didn't know this was where it's gonna lead to, but this has been my stance from the beginning. And the truth is, you know, I can empathize and sympathize because I've been there before, traumatized. Like at 17, my boyfriend burnt my car up. You know, I've had situations where you know, my own family members, I'm fighting men and they didn't step up on my behalf. I've been in Starbucks with complete strangers, seeing, you know, women get beat up and men around just standing there looking, saying it's not my business. And again, I want to be clear, I love Black men. There's not a single thing that a Black man can do for me not to love them, fight for, advocate, protect, whatever. That's not the case, but I can say, and I'm a math teacher, so for those with the numbers, like 20% of the incidents that I can recall immediately were Black men stepping up and protecting me personally. So that means the other 80% of the incidents that took place in my life that have been traumatizing for me was Black men not stepping up for me. And so, you know, I don't think that we're protected on a large scale. I think that there's a lot of reasons probably why, right? And people say, well, people crazy, you could die. I'm trying to get home to my wife and my kids. Like, all of those things I get. But I think the problem that I have is that I, you know, continue to go out here and fight. I'm at every protest for Black men. I traveled to Minneapolis when George Floyd got killed. Like, I'm in the streets. Like, I can't walk by and see a Black man getting jumped by some other guys and I not pull my car over and hop out to at least help, right? So it's like, here I am as a Black woman shouldering what Meg is talking about, like everybody else's emotions and, you know, suppressing my own for the sake of everybody else. But then what about me? You know, white men have male privilege. White women have white privilege. Black women, what do we have?
I appreciate you sharing that information and your personal stories as well. Tawana, I want to ask you that same question. Are Black women protected?
Okay, so the short answer is no, right? But I struggle with this question because the word protection is so broad. It's not clearly defined for me. Like, for some people, it's physical. For some of us, it's emotional, and then it's both for a lot of women. And so I've seen arguments on every end. And so also, I always question like who our audience is, who are we speaking to? Are we trying to spread awareness? So are we speaking to women, or do we want things to change? So are we trying to connect with men? And if we are speaking to men, then I feel like we're going to have to change the language, because if we truly want their help, most men see themselves as protectors. So see, me personally, this is what I do. If I really want something and I really crave that, I study that. So me, I study men because I want men in my life, right? So I want to study the Black man specifically because they're different than any other man. So to me, we're asking them to protect us. We're not really defining it. So it can get a little crazy. I'm going to define it later, but I'm just saying that I do think that Black women are not protected. Do not get me wrong. I believe in this unprotected movement, but I do feel like we have to define it. And I assume that, men, they want to protect us, but if we say that we're unprotected by them, then that could be a trigger. So, I mean, there's times where I feel misunderstood. I feel afraid. I feel misrepresented by men. Do that translate to me being unprotected? Yes, absolutely. Sometimes I feel unprotected. But Black men are also powerless, right? In a lot of ways. And we both have the same struggle. And so I'm careful not to emasculate the man, because if I want to ask you for help, then I can't use your masculinity against you. So to me, if I'm doing that, then I feel like I'm acting like I'm entitled. And I'm not an entitled person. And I can just think of instances where, like for instance, I go to the grocery store all the time. And when I go to the grocery store, you know how you have so many groceries, but you got that cart, but you may not want to take that cart back to the space. So I try to get all the bags and carry the bags by myself to the car sometimes, and it'd be a ton of bags. And I can remember a man approaching me, asking me like, oh, want help? And I'm like, no, right? A Black man. I'm like, no. And unconsciously, that energy, I mean, he really just may have wanted to help me, but I have been taught to just not even like, no, don't, I can do this. Thank you. So it's a small example, but I'm just saying, are we asking to be validated without reciprocating the energy? I wonder that. So, also we can say that men who are protective, we call them controlling. So it's like contradicting. I'm like, okay, so do you want them to be a man or you don't? Like, I don't understand the fight. So I'm speaking from this position. What is protection to me? To me, it's not calling women, Black women, derogatory names, not participating in the narrative that's there that we sassy, we're loud, that we're aggressive, we're angry, not participating in that. Also being vocal and defending us when those stereotypes come up, not just saying, okay, I'm not just saying, I want you to protect me. I'm telling you ways that you can. Not supporting a culture that degrades us and over-sexualizes us and not dehumanizing us, but also marrying us and not making us baby moms. That is a way to protect us. And a lot of Black men don't protect us in that way. We have a lot of single mothers out here because men are absent. Single Black women are dying of poverty. Like Black men being absent in the home and being absent in our communities is an issue. So if I want that, I need to make sure I connect with you and tell you why I need that. Now, if a man is in the house, how possible is it going to be for a man, another man to come in there and penetrate his daughter? It's going to be harder. I'm not saying it don't happen, but a man being in that home also creates this order. And it also gives you, guys are not threatened by a mother. They're not threatened by a single mother. So you're going to have certain people that come in your life because they know you got a single mother and they're not threatened by that. I just think that we need to be clear about the protection that we're asking for. And so these are just some of my thoughts on it.
I appreciate that. B. Nix, I want to ask you, do you feel like Black women are protected?
You know what? I'm gonna have to say like what Jillian would say, like I had to sit with this for a minute, right? So the thing is, like, the concept, I still struggle with that. Like Tawana mentioned, it's like, what? What do you mean like protect? Because it's like, is this physical? Is this emotional? But I think it's an aspect about being present, you know, as a man. But the thing is, it goes back to who defines this, right? It goes back, you know, I'm always good for this, as far as just societal worldview of these gender types, gender typing, right? And these schemas about how men are supposed to act and how women are supposed to act. And we still kind of hold on to these traditional norms. So, I mean, um, I felt I still, even right now, I struggle with this because it's kind of like, I feel like it's a world that I'm not a part of, right? Because the thing is like, I don't kind of grasp the concept. I get it like from a philosophical aspect, but from an actual application, real life, it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, what do you mean by protect? So
That's exactly what I mean. You
yeah,
don't
so
even know what it means.
yeah, so I looked at it from the aspect of I had to sit with that, Jillian, right? So I had to sit with it and really think about like, well, let me define examples like someone did that we know that's on the panel, have to sit with their experiences and think about like, well, how have I been the role of protector, and not just saying I'm gonna just beat somebody ass if they, you know, talk out of line and I'm present. But the thing is the aspect of being present. So the thing is how I define being a man, am I being present? That I think men still hold on to this role as protector, but also I think it's a respectful thing as well. Like, am I respectful to women that's in my circle? So, you know, the people I would think in my circle or my friends, my family, you know, my moms, my wife, my kids, my daughters specifically, but also even people I don't know. Cause I think it goes back to like, the reason I mentioned rape culture, because a part of this that goes back to bystander syndrome, where there are people who are witnesses to situations, but they're a bystander. They will choose to, one, record a wrongdoing versus actually taking action. So the thing is, it was like, okay, because I look at it, and when someone does that, they're kind of disconnected. They're not present. Like they're there as a bystander, going back to how I define bystander syndrome. But the thing is, you can apply that to different situations. So I try to use that to say, like, how can I apply that to not protecting our Black women? So the thing is, I think language, right? What is appropriate language? So I know my father is notorious for calling women bitches, right? That's just how he is. That's how he was bred. I know he probably thinks me and my brother soft because the fact that we always had an issue when he would say it around. He's like, I forgot, I can't call y'all bitches. So I'm gonna just call y'all young gals or some shit like that, right? But the thing is, for him, he doesn't get it. But for us, it was like, well, I'm not from that era. And the thing is like, well, to me, if it comes out of my mouth, it's derogatory. If a woman calls another woman bitch, then it's like, hey, almost like going back to the nigga conversation. That's their language as far as a term of endearment. I'm not about to be caught up with calling a woman a bitch. If a woman wants to call herself that, go right ahead. But you won't hear it come out of my mouth. So the thing is like, okay, language. Am I being respectful or being present in basically highlighting women in a respectful way based on language? So that's being present. Then for two is like, well, if I do see wrongdoing, am I a bystander in it? So I never looked at it specifically to Black women. To me, I think that's just something, if, you know, I'm not saying we out here in the street, but if you real and you genuine and you authentic, then you need to speak your truth, regardless whether it's a woman or a man, period. But the thing is, we assume that everybody's built the same way. Everybody is not built the same way. We don't have the same life experiences. So shame on me for assuming that this is something that a Black man is supposed to do. Then I thought about like, well, I could do a counter argument, especially since I knew Jillian was going to be on the show. Like, well, you know, I feel as a Black man, I'm not protected. So I thought about, when do I feel unprotected? Every time a cop roll up on me when I'm in my car. That, I don't care how old you are, being a Black man, I feel real vulnerable. And I'm sure people can agree that it's like, okay, so for me, I was like, okay, so going back to the aspect of protecting women, it's an aspect of vulnerability. feeling that you don't have anyone to be that level of protection, that shield. Every time a cop rolls up, I feel like I'm out here naked. Like I have no shield, right? I don't have no one to advocate for me, no one to speak up for me, no one to protect me. So to that point, I then realized like, okay, so this is the concept of protecting Black women. I don't even know whether I have done it or not. I don't think I've specialized it or contextualized in a way where this is what I do for Black women. But then I felt hypocritical. Because then it's like, well, isn't that what people say about racism? Oh yeah, I don't see color. I don't see racism. No, I don't see privilege. So it confused the hell out of me. Because then it's like, well, you got to pick a stance, especially nowadays. So the thing is, I personally pride myself on, regardless whether you're a man or woman, I want to be present to make sure that folks are respectful in my presence. And if it's not, then that's something I feel like that's my cue. I have to say something. So the thing is, you think about, well, what spaces? Because then it's like, I think Ice even said on there, we're old, right? So the thing is, maybe I'm old. I'm not in those circles no more. But then it's like, well, I'm not the same man that I was when I was younger either. Who teaches men to be the protector? I don't know, because I love my father.
No man is in the household. Who is teaching them?
Yeah, but I love my father, but he wasn't there.
So then what does your village look like though? And I think that's the part that I feel like for
all
me,
women.
And that's the problem.
That's what happens.
So y'all get together as a village and support one another. Like women, we're always at empowerment brunches and going to therapy.
Men don't do that, Jill.
That's my point.
And so, I know you talked about that, but that's...
So when are y'all going to take accountability to do that though? You need a village to support you so that you can support your community.
But see, this is the thing. Because the thing is, I get it. And I think that, you know what, we always say like, hey, one person at a time, right? In order to affect change. I think I do that. But as far as this kind of like more broad lens in which you're speaking about this from, I don't know if I penetrated what you're talking about. Like, I think I bring up vulnerability every time we do a show as a man. And the thing is, I was clear about, I didn't know what vulnerability meant as a Black man. So the thing is, I had to put myself in the situation of being a woman. I felt uncomfortable with this topic because who am I to say like, oh yeah, this is what women need? Because then guess what? That's a level of privilege. We always do this. We're like, well, this is what a man, this is what y'all need to do. Who am I to say? I could give a recommendation, but to give a mandate, that's a totally different thing. Because this is what happened in government. We got a bunch of people in government that's not in the street, that's not in our neighborhood, and say like, oh yeah, this is what y'all need to do in Chicago. I'm gonna send this. That's what's happening right now. We have people with these big ideas and these based on these stereotypes and these large concepts without really breaking down and scaffolding the application of it. So the thing is, not just for Jillian, but for all women, I struggle with it because I truly don't know. And I'm learning as to what do you mean protect Black women? But the thing is, I can say that, well, then that's up to me to also hold myself accountable. Because I want to say, maybe I've been doing it already. Maybe I'm more cognizant of it now because we're talking about it on the podcast, or to hold my peers accountable. So all I could do is say, just make one impact at a time based on what I do. But I still feel it's a counter argument. Again, you're talking about protecting Black women. I think there's an aspect of protecting Black men. There's an aspect of protecting women, protecting people of homosexual, sexual orientation. Hell, protect the mental health. All of that. We could say
we gotta pick
also
a lane,
make it out
we
here
gotta
too.
stay focused. Like, how we gonna? I mean, it's so many different fights out here. How we gonna continue to fight for everything? We have to pick a focus. And Black men and women both need to take accountability. And you as a king, you as a Black king can tell me what you think you need from me. Well, and we can have that conversation. I don't know.
This is the thing. Hey, one more thing, and I'm gonna let Anton talk because this is part I feel like as a society we're struggling with this right now, right? Because the thing is, I'm gonna just shift a little bit, like us talking about race relations right now, specifically Black folks, right? So the thing is, now somebody, nothing against that, but somebody say like, well, I'm Hispanic. And the thing is, these are the things I deal with. Then somebody else is going to say like, well, I'm Black, but I'm homosexual. And these are the things I deal with. So now, guess what? We're talking about Black lives and we're talking about race. Now it becomes like so many other things. So the thing is, I think there's so many things happening. Folks need to focus on one thing. And the thing is one of those, when you start talking about everything else, because you can talk about, yeah, Black lives matter, but I'm Black and homosexual. Oh, well, that takes on a whole nother movement. That's technically separate, but it's related. So the thing is, people lose focus. So we're talking about, hey, protecting our Black women, right? Then it becomes one of those, well, we need to protect these people. We didn't protect, well, I wasn't mentioned. I feel left out of the conversation because they didn't mention me. So I think right now the current movement is protecting Black women and protecting Black Lives Matter. Those two aspects. But I think the part that becomes confusing, and I hate to give Anton credit from a couple of shows back, I know you was talking about you was at the march and you was trying to hear like nobody had the outcome. I think the outcome is clear, but it does become conflated with other things as this continues to evolve. And I think that's the part with keeping the outcome of this movement at the forefront, which Jillian, I think this is what you're doing. But the thing is, you're also competing against other movements. Not to say it's anyone's fault, but I think that's just where we're at right now, currently in our society. All right, I'm done, Jay.
I appreciate it. Anton, I want you to answer that question. Are Black women protected?
My thing is, you can't have it both ways, right? So, for example, if we were to pose this question and to hold men more accountable, let's say 50 years ago, right, where women were more defined as more vulnerable because they had less options, right? Then you can say men should take more accountability for that situation, which 50 years ago, there were more men in the household, right? There were more two-parent families, so on and so forth. But you can't have it both ways because there's a flip side to that coin. I know personally, grew up with a lot of dudes, and this is the part that nobody tells the story of. I grew up with a lot of dudes that's laying in a cemetery today because they got involved in a situation as it relates to a girl. And as a result, the narrative became, well, that wasn't your business. You shouldn't have been involved in that. And that's the absolute truth. Throughout history, there have been countless circumstances and situations. Whole wars have been started over protection over women. And I'm not even just talking about Black women in general, just women overall. So when you pose this question, it's a loaded question because I hear the narrative today as it relates to this whole equal rights thing, right? We want to be on the same level, same rights, same benefits, but you don't want any of the same repercussions that come along with it. There's only 2 shelters in the entire United States as it relates to domestic violence for men. This is a fact. Men have higher suicide rates, high death rates, higher incarceration rates. So it's almost like, so you want me to be Batman and you want to be Batman depending on what it is that we discussing in the household. Like, you can't have it both ways, bro. Like, either you want all equal everything, which means then you want an equal level of responsibility as it relates to your own decisions and your own protection, or you want to have a balanced circumstance to where you want to let me be a man and then you want to be a woman as it relates to how we define traditional roles within a household. So if you want that, then it's going to have to be some give and take. But then at the same time, like I said, there's countless stories of a lot of guys that's locked up, of a lot of guys that's dead, of a lot of guys that found themselves on the other side of the coin. You know, I watched your live, Jillian, and the majority of what you said, I did agree with. I'm going to say probably about 85 to 90%. But I just think it's another side of the coin that you didn't describe. So, for example, one of the things that you said is, if a woman doesn't have the strength to leave from a circumstance where her relationship is violent, if she doesn't have the strength to do that, then who is it going to be there to protect her? I'm sorry, is that my responsibility? Whose shoulders is that going to ride on? Because I've known a circumstance where a dude wind up, and this is the honest to God truth, I've known a dude got shot because he interjected into that situation, and then 5 years later, she's still with that dude. And it's almost like, come on, if we gonna have this conversation, let's paint the full picture. Mm-hmm. Let's not paint it one-sided. Let's not paint it to where it's slanted towards, okay, Meg Thee Stallion is the person that's popular right now as it relates to her circumstance. So yeah, we can address the fact that there should be more protection as it relates to our daughters. There should be more due, because I hold men to a high standard as it relates to accountability. I always say, and I even told y'all on this podcast, when circumstances happen with the guys that I mentor, I always say, well, what's your role in it? Well, she not doing what she's supposed to do. Well, are you the man that you're supposed to be so that you can enable her to be the woman that she's supposed to be? I hold men to a high standard of accountability. But at the same time, if we're going to have this conversation from a broad perspective, because it is difficult to have this conversation this broad, because as B. Nix indicated, you don't know what to attack. But if we are going to have this conversation, then we need to evaluate it from both sides of the coin. It's a lot of dudes sitting in the cemetery because they tried to step into a circumstance. And perhaps that's part of the reason why you see a lot of people not wanting to get involved in circumstances that they see something happening, and it may not necessarily be something that pertains to them. And they may be conflicted within themselves because I want to interject, but I know a lot of dudes that ended up in the cemetery and I don't know their circumstance. It's another side of the coin that we're not talking about. So yeah, I do think that she has some valid points, but if we're going to have the conversation, you got to have the whole conversation, not part of it.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, JR. I don't
Oh,
know.
no. I was looking at your face expression, and he did speak on your the actual live video. So I want you to respond to some of the things that he said.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't know. I think that it's tough to say that I am not talking about the complete picture or the other side of the coin, because I think that there are definitely some things that we should consider, right? So choosing our mate, all these different things that we have control over. I think what I struggle with, though, and this is, and B. Nix talked about this too. Let me be clear. I am not expecting any Black man to do anything for me or anybody else that I am not willing to do. I do this regularly. You can talk to anybody in my circle. If I see something happening, I'm getting out of my car and I'm making it happen. In front of my granny house, they selling drugs. I hop right out on them. You can go on the next block. We not doing that. So I am doing the work. I'm not expecting anybody, man, woman, anybody else, Black, white, to do anything that I'm not willing to do. So my concern comes from my heart and my affinity for my people and my community, being willing to legit die for whatever is necessary for us to be progressive is my concern. It's like, we went to paint the mural on 71st and Jeffrey the other night at 1:00 in the morning. We in the group chat saying like, oh, it said Jeffrey, come paint the street, Black Lives Matter. We got 8 women that signed up. Here go to me. 71st and Jeffrey at 1:00 in the morning. Like, yo, like, but the women like, yes, 1:00, let's go, let's do it. And now we looking for a couple men to be like, just come to be a presence. And you like, I don't know, it's a little dangerous over there. Like, since when did, and so the whole.
Wait. I don't mean to interrupt you, but why not?
You did, though. But you did. I ain't interrupt you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just didn't, as it relates to the point that you just made. So why not take into consideration the fact that the men said that may be a little bit unreasonable. Maybe we need to evaluate a different time. Like, that's a form of protection that you're not considering as a part of this conversation.
Yeah, well, so I think that would make sense, except you have to go at 1:00 in the morning to shut the streets down. You can't go at a normal time because it's too much traffic. So for me, it's a form of protest. Art on the street, on the ground, we making history. It's 1 a.m. Let's roll out together as a group. Nothing happened while we were out there. I hear you on the side of like something could happen. Something could happen at 1:00 in the morning. They were at a funeral at what time it got shot up. So like for me, it's just like, are we going to continue to live our lives like, oh my God, the worst could happen every time. The worst can happen when I walk out my doorstep to go to work in the morning. So I just feel like, again, I'm not asking anybody to do anything that I'm not willing to do, but I think the other piece to that too is like, at what point do we become selfless? Because I'm going to tell you right now, any man of my child, like my son is going to be raised. I don't give a damn where you at, who you with, whose son, daughter, whatever it is. If you see injustice happening, you need to step up for it. And if I have to bury you as a result of it, we're going to celebrate. And I'll feel the same way. I'm your mama and understand I may not come home because if something happened, I'm going to stand up for it. That's me and mine. People call it fair. Do whatever. But how do we take ownership of our community to say, I'm outside of myself? And what I want, people love me too. I got family that love me too.
The problem is that the conversation transitioned from protection to protest, right? We're not talking about protests right now. That's an entirely different subject. What we talking about is what you brought up, which is why don't I feel protected? And part of the problem is that you don't want to be protected based off of the example that you gave, because you just said that there are men that say, yo, wait a minute. That's a form of protection that you don't want to accept or acknowledge because you want to do what you want to do as it relates to the movement that it is that you try to do. Now, if you want to do that, that's fair. That's fine. 100% cool. But at the same time, don't come back if something happened and you say, well, I didn't feel protected, because you ignored that other side of the coin, that other side of the conversation that won't be told if something was to happen to you. So if you want to talk about protesting, that's an entirely different subject. But if you want to talk about protection as it relates to the example that you just gave, you just put your own foot in your mouth, because there is a form of protection that goes into that. Maybe all of the women was gung-ho. Maybe they feeling excited. Maybe they want to get with the movement. That's fair. Maybe there are men that want to get with the movement also. But at the same time, maybe that sixth sense within a man that says, well, you know what? I don't really want my women out there at that particular time is kicking in. But you decide you want to do what you want to do anyway. That is a form of protection, but that part won't be told if something was to happen to you. And that's why I say men get a bad rap, because they do try to be proactive. They do try to be protective. They do try to participate. And I'm not making an excuse for example, like I said, I did agree with 90% of what you were saying on your live. There should have been a father in your life. Your uncle should have, protected you. You should feel more empowered to be who it is that you want to be. And you should not even be having that conversation, because that should not be your narrative. But at the same time, there is other circumstances in another part of that coin that does play into it, the same way that we can't say that we know what women feel. You don't know what it is that we're doing on the other side of the fence to try to protect you, that you may not understand, because you don't look at it from a man's perspective either.
So I think, and so here's the thing, I love this kind of debate. I think what you just did, though, you switched my narrative. That was an example around a protest, but there's still protection within the protest. And so here's the other thing I'm gonna just say, though. If we're talking about equal rights and as it relates to men and women and how we all want to be the same, we all the time support Black men in y'all stupid decisions all the time. So when I say, hey, I want to go paint this thing or whatever, or I want to go travel to Minneapolis to go to whatever, or I want to go to the grocery store at midnight because I want a chocolate bar, a candy bar, and you like whole time, like, it's probably not safe because it's late. Do you really need the Snicker right now? No, but I really want the Snicker. So come on, babe, let's go. Like, where do we get the same latitude that we extend to y'all is what I'm saying. So it sounds like the protection is conditional. If you're doing what I want you to do or what I think is right for you, then I'll protect you. But the moment you want to make a decision that I don't agree with, then I'm washing my hands. I'm just saying, from my perspective, that's not how I support Black men. You could be making a decision that I don't agree with, that I think is unsafe and all that. But if that's what you're doing, you rocking, I'm rolling. Where is that same ride or die that y'all want in us for us? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, Jillian, because just as man, I don't know what all men do. I like what I say, and I think I'm always clear, like, hey, this is how I personally feel about it. I mean, even people in my circle, we all think the same way. I mean, different way. I'm sorry. We all think differently about situations. But the only thing is, I guess, I always look at it like, I just appreciate the fact of, everybody on here just, hey, you got to make folks aware. Because if you don't talk about it, then it's not real. To me, I really didn't think this was real until, like, I understand. I heard of it. But the thing is, like, well, that didn't impact me directly. I can't say I'm in that circle. But then also, not necessarily for you, Jillian, but for anybody, it's like, well, if you got a circle of people that you feel that are not going to protect you, they shouldn't even be in your circle anyway. So then to me, it's like, well, it's not even about gender. It's about whoever's in your squad, whoever, like you mentioned the term village, whoever's in your village and they not ready to ride and they not a protecting, and they shouldn't be in the village. Because one thing I mentioned earlier, we, Jillian, and I think all of us do this, we're going in with our own level of privilege of assuming that, y'all supposed to know, and the thing is, a lot of us on the call, we just say like y'all, them, men, women, these blanket statements. The thing is, we assume everybody's built the same way. Everybody mentally do not process that. Because the thing is, you gave a scenario about 71st and Jeffrey. Somebody else may say like, okay, cool, let's roll. Or just the fact, hey, you going to go, like, I'm going to go with you just to support, but also maybe it may be also indirect, like, hey, I'm gonna come and, you know, protect. Other people may say like, man, I'm making a business decision. I'm not doing that. Like, that's high risk. So the thing is, I think it goes back to each individual person. We all got our own autonomy, but I do feel what both of y'all are saying. Anton, I know you mentioned about the having it both ways. This is my only mild level of support of what you're saying. Going back to societal norms that, you know, women are meant to be independent. They're meant to be leads. They're meant to be their own person, treated equal. So then now I feel like, Jillian, this now becomes this another layer of a counter narrative. Like, well, protect what? Women do everything by themselves. They get their own money. They secure their own bag. They basically are the dudes now. Because I think, and even in society, more dudes are more docile now than in the past. Because the thing is, the family structure may be different. Upbringing is different. So the thing is, it's one of those that, like, there is a group of people, I would say men and women, that look at it like that. I don't need a man. Because that's the part that also is part of this counter narrative. Because now, why should I protect if you do everything yourself? So I'm not saying I feel that way, but I believe that is also another variable that's out there that, like, hey, Jill, Tawana, you can handle your own. You a boss, you this, you strong. And the thing is, almost like we even do it. We even call women like, oh, you strong, right? The thing is, like, why can't you just, oh, that's just Jillian, that's just Tawana. We always do it with these adjectives. We say like, oh, well, black women, they're strong. But the thing is, because of that adjective, now it's like, oh, well, Jillian, you can handle yourself. Tawana, you can handle yourself because you're a strong black woman. And the thing is, that's the part where it becomes slightly, to say what Anton is talking about having it both ways, in which now it's like, well, you're a strong black woman. I'm not using that as an out, but that's the way it's messaged. We stand behind it. So then now this is also part of the outcome of standing behind this strong black woman, because now you got a weak black man behind you that feel like, oh, okay, well, you run the show, you call the shots. I don't think we assume men know how to be protectors. That's another thing. Even people on the chat, the thing is like, well, that's what men are supposed to do. Who told men how to do, like, who trained men how to do that? Like, these are acquired skills. This is learned behavior. So if I wasn't in the setting to learn how to be a protector, then we go in assuming that you're just supposed to know how. Like, it's just a chip that's in our mind that, oh, these are all the things that men do. We love the color blue. We love sports. There's men that don't like sports. So the thing is, it all goes back to gender types. We can't go in assuming. So that's the only part that's why the conversation needs to be had, so folks are aware. Because men don't have this space. Men don't talk about, like, when I was protected.
Let me add something in there for the people in the chat, because apparently it's a lot of people that may be new to this chat. And for the people that are new, I just want to validate, you know, who it is that I am and where I come from. The same way that Jillian, and I give her a lot of credit, because she's not speaking from the perspective of somebody that's not on the ground, somebody that's not involved, somebody that would not, you know, actually be in the thick of things. So it's not like she's uninformed. But in the same way that she is, I am also. I'm at the protest having these conversations, right? I'm really participating. I'm spending a lot of my money to build up these communities. I'm mentoring young guys. I do a lot of volunteer work. I am really involved, not only financially, emotionally, but hands-on. So when we having these conversations and I'm speaking, I'm not speaking from the perspective of a person that's not involved or doesn't have insight. I'm really on the ground. So when I say stuff like, I know guys that's really in a cemetery, I know these dudes personally, and I had to go to their funerals because they was involved in a situation and they chose to get involved in a circumstance where they're, you know, the other person that put them in a cemetery, or the person that they were intervening on their behalf on, no longer have nothing to say about them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really here. I'm really involved. So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit.
You know, I get that, Anton. And the thing is, like, I hear what you're saying, but, you know, I think we all have to have our own level of responsibility as well on how we support. Because the thing is, you know what? I joked about it, but hey, we all are in different stages of our life right now. So the thing is, that means that I have to adapt also on how I make an impact. It may not be necessarily out in the street, but then based on my role, my neighborhood I live in, the people I do have in my circle, how can I make them aware? So the thing is, you know, I get it, but the thing is, okay, let's say you're not in the street, right? So then it becomes one of those like, oh, I think people use that as an out, like, oh, well, I really don't know what's going on because I'm not in the street. And the thing is, a lot of us not in the street. The people on the chat not in the street. I'm not in the street. Like, we're also talking about it from. I mean, I'm not saying anything wrong with this panel, but everybody on this call are very well educated people. So the thing is, a lot of this, we're also talking about the people that are uninformed, the people who didn't have both parents, or you know what? Maybe they did have both parents, but they just was the person who went left. So the thing is, we have to continue to keep the message forward. I say for myself, I am still learning on what it means to say that, you know what, we need to protect Black women. Because the thing is, you know what, going back to our first question, when JR asked about, hey, what did I think about Meg Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez? For one, I didn't know they were together. But the thing is, this also made me think of like years back, the Chris Brown and Rihanna situation, right? It was another, we've seen this take play out time and time again. So the thing
I don't think that's a good example.
Because we're talking about abuse.
Black women, though, right?
Also,
it is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tawana. But I do think it's relevant.
Just focus on physical protection, and that's what we're focused on. And I think that is problematic in itself because there's so many different things that Black men can do to protect the communities and protect us. Also, I mean, I have several, and I'm trying to take the approach of, yes, I may have felt protected throughout my life. I may have several instances, but I'm thinking about what I've seen other Black women go through and the things that I've experienced in my life and how I feel that they were not protected. And it starts with the home. It starts with the men not being present in the home. And it's just so common. And it's also taking accountability for the type of men we choose, but it's also a bigger issue than that, right? So I'm just trying to make sure that we give you examples of what protection means and what that looks like for us. Because if you don't know how to protect us and we're not telling you how to protect us, this conversation is just going to go round in circles until somebody.
But what if you choose not to listen to me and decide to do your own thing?
With that, if we're asking men to help us, we have to listen to you. And there is order with your protection. And I know a lot of Black women don't want to hear that, but that is what's going to happen. Black men, they're gonna have some order. They're gonna ask you to be a certain way. You gotta respect yourself if you want them to respect you. We gotta respect each other if we want Black men to protect us. And I'm just saying that we have to hold ourselves accountable in some regard, right? And I mean, I've had Black men in my past. I've had several instances. Actually, when I was thinking about this, I thought of more instances where Black men protected me than when they didn't. And I mean, it wasn't my daddy. It wasn't my uncles. They did protect me, but it wasn't just them. It was this high school teacher who I was out there cussing, acting a fool, trying to fight, doing whatever. He pulled me to the side. Now, we were on a college tour, and I was just going to the college tour just to have fun. I had no intentions of going to Iowa State, but we just went because it was a free trip, and they was giving us a little stipend to go. And that high school teacher, he saw me acting a fool. I wasn't taking the trip seriously. He went and pulled my report card. That's how he was like, who is this girl? Like, let me. And he looked at my report card. He called me. He said, when I pulled your report card, I thought you was gonna be a mediocre student. Like, I didn't expect to see that you actually got some sense. Like, you are. And he was like, why are you representing yourself in this way? Whether or not you really take this school seriously, why would you want to perceive yourself in this way? And so it checked me. It made me think. Like, he held me accountable for the way I was acting. I was 18. I was old enough to be held accountable for my behavior. So I feel like there are instances where Black men have protected me. And so I don't want to just harp on the things that I know they do wrong. But I'm thinking we're speaking to a man who we want to protect us. We're not speaking to men who don't not you know what I'm talking. I don't want to like really stereotype men, and I'm trying hard not to say anything negative, because when I'm asking someone for help, I want to appear to be open, and I want to appear to be understanding of what you need from me in order to get that help, right? And so if I degrade you or if I belittle you, why would you want to help me? And that's how I feel, and that's human nature. And women, we can pretend like, oh, we can just say whatever we want to say and they gonna still help us. No, that's not gonna happen. If you don't respect yourself, he not gonna respect you.
So, but what
If
about
you don't respect other women, he ain't gonna respect you. That's just my opinion.
Hey,
yeah,
Jim,
but
yeah, go
what
ahead.
what
Go
about
ahead, chime in on it.
what about when we are respectful of them and they still don't respect us? What about
I
when
mean, there
we
is exceptions, Jill. I'm not discounting, because you have had some experiences and I've heard your experiences, and I have suffer similar experiences, and I do think that those were definitely instances of men that was not protecting you, your father not being in your life. And I'm referencing your video, so I know people who haven't watched it, go watch it. It was amazing. Your father not being in your life, you not being present, the domestic violence that you went through. And I have people in my family who went through domestic violence as well, and it was very prevalent, and so I do think that there are some exceptions, absolutely. But we're never going to get anywhere if we don't hold women accountable for the things that they need to change. And they need to, if we don't say to women, yeah, you're absolutely right. There are instances and there are men who don't. And I'm not asking you to willingly go into those situations with men who we know are disrespectful. When we walking down the street, they grabbing us, they doing inappropriate things, being aggressive. We're not asking you to face those men, but we're telling you that you have to hold yourself to a level of you have to respect yourself to a level where you can feel like, I demand this respect. Like, I deserve this. And it's not because of anything that I'm just entitled to get. It's because of who I am. I'm a queen, and I'm presenting myself to be a queen. So why not protect me because I'm a queen? And I'm telling you, it's gonna be, but if we want men's help, other than that, we have to do this protection thing ourselves. We might as well get our own FOIA cards,
right,
and get out there.
I guess I struggle with that though, because I mean, and this is interesting hearing you say this though, Tawana, especially as a woman speaking, like for a man to say, hey, I'm asking you, I don't know how to protect you. What does it mean for you to feel protected? And then I tell you what I need to feel protected. You don't get to come back and tell me, no, that's not how I'm protecting you. You're not doing X, Y, Z. I'm telling you, this is what I need to be protected. Now you could disagree with it, but you don't get to then tell me, no, we're not doing that. That's not what you need to be protected. Like, that's the part where I feel like,
then how do we come together? Like, that's what comes back to my first question then. How do we actually get to a place where we are both going to have a resolution as to how we want to come together and be united? Because what I'm hearing when we say we're unprotected by Black men, what I'm hearing is that we want Black men in our lives and we want them present.
Absolutely.
So if we want you, if I'm saying to you, I want you, and the Black man is telling me, well, guess what? I can do these things, but maybe protection, what you think protection is not exactly what it is. And here, let me tell you some things that I want to do. How do we come to a compromise? Because I'm all about compromise. Mm-hmm. I believe in marriage. I believe in togetherness. I believe in partnership. I am against anyone who's saying something different from that, because I think that's the foundation of healing our communities, of building us. Men are not even in our communities. They're not present.
So can I ask a question then? Because I think Jillian posed a question that I personally felt was interesting, and she kind of spoke on it on her live, and I 100% disagree. This is one of the things that I disagree with, right? Because you said, if you tell us what you feel like you need in order to be protected, that is that the end all be all? Is that the end of the conversation? Either I meet that expectation or that's the end of it?
No, I don't think that. I think we need to have a conversation about it. What I'm trying to say though is that, like, no different than anything else, when I come to a relationship, I get to determine what I want and what I need in this relationship. You also get to determine if you can provide or are willing to provide that, right? I think could be some compromise there, but I also think that if I'm saying, hey, in order for me to be protected, I need to, hear you check your father every time he called my mama a bitch. Like, that's what protection looks like to me. And you might be like, that ain't my business. And I will be like, okay, well, then you can't protect me. Like, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not right. You're not wrong. It's just that you can't provide the protection in the way that I need to be protected.
Fair enough. So I accept that answer. The narrative that you pose as it relates to the example that you used where you felt like you was unprotected as it relates to the conversation that you was having with your best friend, right? Mm-hmm. You said that you told him what you felt like needed to be protected, and then apparently he disagreed because he cut off the relationship. Mm-hmm. And then you felt a certain type of way as it relates to him cutting off the relationship because apparently he didn't want to meet that expectation, right? Mm-hmm. But then like right now, you're saying that, okay, you okay with it if you move and do your own thing. But in the live, you were saying that you felt some type of way and you felt unprotected as it relates to him deciding to move in a different direction because he didn't apparently agree with what you felt like protection looked like. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
I do. And it would make a lot of sense, except I think you might be misunderstanding what I said in the live. So there's a difference between like me communicating. So it would be different if I felt like he moved forward because he didn't feel like he could protect me in the way that I wanted. I felt like he moved forward because I was trying to establish boundaries in our friendship that he didn't agree with, not the protection piece, right? So like for me as a Black woman, I feel like this happens in a lot of instances, whether I'm intimate or platonic with someone. It's like, hey, I'm going to establish some boundaries. This is what I need. And then it's like, no, you don't get to establish boundaries. It's either how I want it to be or not. Like that is why I think he got upset with me. And like, I think it's more about his ego and why he hasn't talked to me. And if I'm being honest, I know him well enough and I know his heart. He's devastated that he hurt my feelings because it's not oftentimes that I'm gonna tell anybody like, look, this is a problem. I think we need to work this out. And I think because he couldn't figure that part out, that's why he kind of like skirted on the responsibility to work through that. It wasn't a like, okay, this is what you're asking for. I can't give it, so I'm done. I would respect that on any day. It was more so like, I'm just not cool with the fact that you want to set these kind of boundaries and I'm low-key hurt that I hurt you and I don't know how to deal with that emotional part of it. So I'm gonna just skirt out on it because that's the easiest way to do it. I don't know if
see, that's a fair depiction that has nothing to do with protection. You see what I'm saying? But using that example along with the valid examples that I think that you made good points on as it relates to your uncle and going in a corner store and all of that other type of stuff, paints a circumstance or a narrative that other men or women that's cheering it on think that that's or invalid form of protection as it relates to men. I think that women should be able to establish boundaries. But at the same time, if we're talking about 2020, men should have the option to say, you know what? I don't want to be in this circumstance. And I think that does you justice because it allows you to see what it is that you do and don't want to deal with. Mm-hmm. I think that that's a good situation that I think that people took negatively took as a negative circumstance towards men evaluating whether or not they should be protective in this particular type of way. You see what I'm saying? So I do agree with you. I support you. I think that it was a phenomenal video that you had. I just think that if we're going to have the conversation, right? Conversations are never one-sided. Mm-hmm. It's you being open to what it is that I have to say, me being open to what you have to say. And I'm not speaking about us specifically, but people in general, because I think that the problem within our community a lot of times is if you don't agree with me, then let me get my pitchfork out and I'm not messing with y'all, or you can get out the way. And that's not the way to progress. That's not the way to progress. If we're going to really transition into being a powerful people, powerful within our communities, empowering our sons and daughters, because we're not even doing it for us at this point. We are what we are. Mm-hmm. It's about the next generation that comes up after us. Right. Are they going to go through the same circumstance where they're fatherless, where it's a broken home, or they're raised to think a certain type of way based off of what it is that they're seeing us doing, and how can we be better examples? That's what comes out of good conversation. And that's why I support your video. At the same time, I just want to make sure that we're painting the full picture and the full narrative.
That's fair.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
get
do think that Jill, like, you protect Black men, like you defend them and you acknowledge them. You hold them accountable, but also we have to listen to them. And I do think that's the one thing that I would say is like we have to listen to them and then we have to come to some agreement. And I don't think we have to agree with what they decide, but we also need to be on the same page. And that's the problem with defining protection, because like you have a definition of protection, I have a different definition of protection, right? So men are confused about which, how do I protect you? What do you want? And is it going to be individualized, or is it going to be like a concept that we create and that we implement? And I don't want to look like, I'm supporting men, but also I understand the root of it is to combine with them and to get on the same page with them and to love them and to understand them. And I do think that we miss the boat on that a lot. A lot of the conversations, we miss that. We miss the actual communication with men to tell them what we need and why we need it, and then hear what they have to say in response.
I totally agree, and this has been super reflective for me, a reflective process. I can't wait to see the YouTube so I can watch it again and hear myself.
Oh my God!
But you know what though?
But I also need to say too, and I don't know that there's a different definition of protection, because in my mind, I feel like protection means to shield from harm. Period. Now, it could be different forms of shielding from harm. So I could be harmed emotionally, mentally, physically. Like those are examples and ways in which I can be harmed. But the actual definition itself is not rocket science. It's to shield me from harm. So if I'm being called a bitch emotionally or psychologically, does that harm me? If it does, you should try to stop it. Or if I'm being physically assaulted, that is harm.
I do think that so I've heard different discussions about it, and I do think some people have different definitions of what they think protection is. And I do think overall, you're right. It's just to shield us, right? Like my dad made sure I wasn't in certain environments. He made sure of that. And he was very clear about the type of woman I was going to be, and definitely in his presence, and so it really drove me to think about, okay, how do men perceive me and what is that like, right? So I grew up with this whole idea in my brain. But if you don't have a man in your home or present, that may not be how you operate. And so some people may think protection is totally different. For me, that was showing me some protection. Like my dad telling me, like, beware your surroundings. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to, this is what women do. This is how, and it's crazy because he's not a woman, but my dad was showing me from his perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was how he protected me, or that's what he believed was protection to me. And I always felt protected because of that, mm-hmm. Because of my dad being there. So I do think that I understand like that it is protection. It is a simple definition. And like, I believe that men should understand it, but they always ask, what do y'all mean?
Yeah.
They never understand where we coming from. That's why I'm like, okay, marry us. Stop making us baby mamas. Like,
and stop letting my boyfriend that is engaged to me cheat on me when y'all go on double dates.
So, all right. I get all that. But the thing is, then, you know what? Not to channel my inner Kanye, but then I begin that when we start kind of giving those examples, it makes it seem like this is a choice, So the thing is, I feel this why this whole everything in the world in 2020 is confusing. It's like, what I had to say, I done changed my mind about everything that was said about 10 times. I talked, I listened, didn't say nothing, changed what I was going to say, because the thing is, it's like, well, you know what? Maybe you got a person in your circle that just don't want to be a protector. Cool. It's a choice. He don't want to be a protector. Fine. Leave him alone. Don't talk to him ever again. Whatever. So the thing is, why hold on to someone that doesn't want to be this person based on what we're trying to visualize this person to be? But the thing is, you also have to understand that there's also, we assume that everybody believes in this protection philosophy, this concept. There are people, and I admit I still am learning as well, but people in the world is just like, man, what is this? they don't believe is real. So the thing is, it's like, that's also something that is like, we can't go in expecting that all of us are starting the race at the same time. There's people still not even at the starting line yet saying like, what is this? It doesn't exist. It's not real. And there's no root cause. So the thing is, let's say Jillian, Tawana, there is an aspect of, you know what? There is a problem about women are not protected. Then what is the root cause then? What is the cause of it? We could simply say like, hey, you know what? Well, you know, myself, I didn't grow up with my father either. But then it's like, okay, well, people still turn out pretty decent, even if they don't have a father. And the thing is, people may not have a father just because he passed away. Things happen. So the thing is, it's like, then it goes back to like, well, you still have a choice. We're born with free will and intellect to have a choice to be the person that we want to be the circle, to have the type of job, the type of woman, the type of relationship. So then it becomes one of those that like, well,
but we're asking for men in this particular movement. So
what if a man says, I don't want to be a protector? So then it goes back to, we all have a choice to say like, hey, I admit I'm a protector, but that doesn't mean every man in America that's black has to be a role of the protector. And the thing is, the people that we're talking about are not even the people that's on this panel. The people that we're complaining about are the people who don't even believe in this. So the thing is like, we're talking almost to the wrong group of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So can I just ask one last question for the fathers on here? Like, so to your point though, B-Nix, right? Like, my father could have passed, and the truth be told, I'm very honest. Like, I think my life is better off because he wasn't there. I think sometimes fathers can be there and cause more harm than not being there. But if you had a daughter and you feel like your role is to protect her, she's on the red line somewhere on her way home from school, you are not around. Do you think it is the responsibility of a black male, whoever's around, whether they know your baby or not, to step in on her behalf?
Yes, but that's me. Because the thing is, it goes back to being present. That's my philosophy. Somebody else is going to say, you gave the example yourself, like, oh, well, that's not my situation. I really ain't got nothing to do with that. We live in a world right now where people make business decisions. You mentioned about a village. There's no more village concept no more. Half of us don't even know our next door neighbor. And we've been living on the same block or in the same apartment for I don't know how long. People, that concept that we're trying to kind of rekindle and we hold on to, specifically black folks, I feel it's a dying concept. We assume that this village exists. Where?
But it has to. We are a communal people. That's my point. We've gotten too far away from what we know.
But that means we're not a communal people no more then.
But we need to get back to it. That's my whole point.
But see, that's the thing. It's
going to be hard to try to curve everybody.
Hold on, Jay. Hold on. So the thing is, it goes back to like going back to choice. Some people don't want to be that role. Some people, it's just almost like perfect example, slightly unrelated, but all us went to college, right? Specifically, I'll say U of I. The thing is, when we got to college, it was one of those like, hey, you got to speak to another black person. The thing is, some people embody that, you know what? We do got to stick together because of your point. We're a communal people. Some people like, I ain't got to say nothing to nobody because nobody going to make me do anything because I have a choice. So just because you black, that don't mean that we all have to be on the same page. So the thing is, this the part where
a lot of us did stick together and all of us knew each other.
Right.
And that's why we made it. That is
exactly.
We made it.
But the thing is, it was a choice that we chose to stick together based on our own.
Black women, and you can choose that as well. And I think black men can choose that.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm telling you that black men and women, like everybody's making business decisions. People like this doesn't impact me, so I'm not going to involve myself. That's why the world is messed up now. Not just about black women. It's about law enforcement. It's about hiring practices. It's about like disenfranchised, marginalized communities. All this goes back to folks making a choice that, you know what? I'm not trying to be that person. We always talk about being thought partners and sharing and being vulnerable. Jillian, there are people who don't want to talk about being vulnerable. So the thing is, are we going to make them say like, oh no, this is what you have to do? There's no rule book on this. So the thing is, it's a competing interest of people that don't even believe in this movement. I support it. I'm learning it. I understand it. It's just like with Black Lives Matter. There's a group of people that are black that don't believe in Black Lives Matter. So the thing is, that's the part where until we get to the point where we're truly, at least the majority of us on the same page, this is going to be a dog fight, just like how it is right now. Not on this panel, but the thing is in life. Because the thing is, Jillian, Tawana, you gave the example, Jillian, like, hey, if I see somebody with my daughter doing something wrong, that's why the bystander syndrome exists. It's gonna be on the train. People on the train acting like they didn't even see, like they blind. It's just like with crime. People know crime that happens in our neighborhood. Everybody looked, I don't know what happened. We
Yep,
now have
you're right.
adopted that aspect of being
You are
communal to
absolutely
say
right.
like, what I don't know. So the thing is, I totally support what you're saying. I get it, but I think that we also need to dig in, probably not on this, but what are the root causes?
The root cause, I was just about to say. That's
Yeah, I beat you to
We
it.
gotta normalize. But we gotta normalize this behavior so that it can
This is
become a
normalized. Like we
problem.
talk about even how the terminology, what I mentioned, appropriate language. Think about our music. The thing that we do claim as far as our music is hip hop music, it perpetuates it goes against everything this call is about. So then we
100%
want to
right,
complain
B.
like, why do young people act like that? We were also young people as well. And then it's like, well, you know what? Maybe I'll just listen to it in a song that I really like. And it's like, it's cool to call somebody a bitch, right? The thing is, it's embodied as like, oh, that's cool. But then it's like, oh, it's not cool because then it's entertainment. None of this shit is written down. So the thing
But
is,
you know
we
what?
assuming that people just know the boundaries of what's real life and what is something that is just an entertainment aspect.
I didn't assume that. That's why I said we needed to define it from the beginning. That was my first statement.
Yeah.
Also,
but
tell what that means. Go ahead.
The benefit of what Jillian is doing that I like is that she's holding the very people who she supports accountable, right? Because I've never understood the logic of asking somebody else that I don't align with to give me anything, right? I've always felt like in order for me to be successful, I need to build within. I need to make my own household great. I need to kick in the door so that I can open it up for somebody else. And now the conversation shifts to, even if I may disagree with a point or two, it forces me to have the conversation with her as a man, as a person that she identifies with as a part of her community, to say, okay, is she right? Can we have this conversation? How do we find what the root cause is and what is the solution? But the most important part about it is that it holds people accountable from within. I can't go to my neighbor and say, yo, don't be cussing out my chick. But then at the same time, every time my chick go out the door, she antagonizing him. You see what I'm saying? I can hold him accountable. No. I can hold him accountable also, but then at the same time, I still need to have that conversation to say, hey, why you keep antagonizing this guy? Like, leave him alone. You see what I'm saying? I think that there's just like you always say, B-Nix, two things can be true at the same time, right? I think that you can still you can address what's happening within your own neighborhood, your own community, in order to solution at the same time that you're advocating for something else, is what I'm trying to say.
No, I get it. And you're speaking as a very mature individual, like all of us are. But the thing is, there are a lot of grown folks that are also immature. Because the thing is, going back to accountability, I mentioned my pops. Not to say he's immature, but I did just say that. The thing is, if he feels comfortable with calling a woman a bitch, at least he doesn't do it in my presence. That's part of being accountable. And then the sad thing is, he had to hear that from his sons. So the thing is, it shows that like, hey, there's a level of accountability. But the thing is,
B-Nix, the one thing that I will align with Jillian on is that you're a grown man now. You're gonna have to hold him to a standard and say, yo.
So he doesn't. He doesn't. But the thing is,
okay.
That's what I'm saying. That's one example where he doesn't. But the thing is, that's what I'm, it has to be ongoing. It can't be a one-off, even though that's just one example. But that means that when we, you have to live this. This is not like, it's like when we say we're about the mission, we're about the movement never ends. You have to embody it. It's almost like when you lose weight, it's a lifestyle, not like, oh, this is just, I'm on a diet just for right now, just something to do. This is a lifestyle that we have to embody. People aren't embodying these movements. It's trendy. And I almost blame social media a little bit for this, but social media is now part of our upbringing. It's part of how we live. So the thing is, trendy is a norm. It's not an outlier anymore.
But see, and this is where I feel like we have to pick, and somebody said this earlier, and I meant to address this. This is just my personal opinion, right? I don't believe in this this fallacy that like we got to get behind one movement. We do not. If Black Lives Matter is your movement, go for it. If Protect Black Women is my movement, I'm going for it. Like we are not a one, like we can do multiple things at a time. Like your lane is your lane, my lane is my lane. And let me be clear in saying this too. Just because my movement is Protect Black Women, I'm not gonna be mad, B Nix or Anton, if y'all started something's like, no, Protect Black Men. Listen, we got so much stuff, so much ground to cover. I just think that it feels divisive when people are like, no, you can't be doing that, or we can't do police brutality because we got black on black.
That's the culture.
Yeah, that's not what I said.
One thing, that's the culture though, because the thing is we do that all the time, because then it's not, we got to compete against each other to say like, no, I don't believe in that, but this is what you need to do. And this is the part where instead of embracing having multiple movements, then it's like, I'm going to tear down your movement in order to then uplift what I'm talking about. So the thing is, it's a both and. We never look at things both and. We always put it in an either or category.
But this is what I said, Jill. I think that every movement needs to have a focus. Not that you have to pick. Because like I believe in Black Lives Matters, but I also am behind the Protect Black Girl movement. But I think that you can't, like he was bringing up all types of different types of issues. B Nix was bringing up all these issues. I'm like, no, if we're talking about protecting Black women, that's what we need to talk about. We can't talk about all the other issues while we're talking about that. We need to like join that movement and then discuss that in detail. Like I think every movement needs to have a focus. That's all I'm saying.
Well, see, but this also comes up where like, because right now we're in 2020, where it's like we now have this space, even this space right now through Zoom, the fact that we now have multiple platforms where we don't have to go through these more traditional channels of the church, through an alderman, all these other vehicles. So then now it's like, everybody has these different spaces, so everybody's trying to shoot their shot at the same time. It's like, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about that, don't do this, don't do that. Where, I mean, I admit, as an individual, the movements become overwhelming at the same time, and I feel like it almost loses its thunder because the fact is people just are overwhelmed. So the thing is, it's challenging. I would say that. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it is challenging because there are multiple movements and they're happening all at the same time. Because I admit, Jillian, Tawana, I talking about protect our women last year or even a few months ago? No, I wasn't. But then it makes me think back in hindsight, like you think about Sandra Bland and you think about all these, you almost have to really turn back the clock and really, I have to sit with this, Jillian. Yeah, you got to sit with it and really reflect. But the thing is, do we truly, not just as Black folks, but as individuals, adults, do we really sit down and have time to reflect on self and how things impact us? And
that's my biggest thing, right? So to your point though, Tawana, you said you feel like we need to have an agenda. Sometimes the agenda is just raising awareness. Yeah. Because this conversation, if somebody listening, of the 15 people, however many views we get on here, sit back and say, let me sit with this, like maybe something Jillian said or Tawana said, let me think about that. Or, I'm not about to go out here and protest in the middle of the street for Black women, but what I can do is the next time my homie refers to his baby mama as a hoe, I'm gonna check him on it. Then that's the change that we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily think it has to end and it's like, oh, we got these laws changed and, it's like, no, how are we liberating our people? And that's what I always preach. How can we get free? And we get free by bringing awareness and reflecting. I don't need nobody to come back. I don't need my ex-boyfriend, my uncle, nobody calling me, apologizing. That is done. What are you going to do moving forward when you see another young Black woman in a position that I was in?
I get it.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
I get it. But see, I think, and I'm a typecast you, Jillian, because I feel like as an educator, the thing is you are leading with awareness because it is about you've been using this space to educate people. But the thing is, I feel that people need to educate themselves. There's a lot of things that, including myself, I'm not privy to. And there are some people that don't want to be lifelong learners. So just like, what the hell are y'all talking about? So I think going back to accountability, going back to our circle, just having the conversation makes people aware. That educates people, because if we don't talk about it, then it doesn't exist. And that's the thing. There's been so many years where our voices weren't to deaf ears because we didn't have these platforms.
All right, Jillian, go ahead and say your last thought.
Yeah, last thing. I'm sorry.
Then I'm gonna get final thoughts from everybody.
Oh, it's already. Oh, now you want to put the clock on. Hey, last time you had us here like 2-3 hours. You did. Talking about Will Smith and stuff, man. You had us here 2+ hours, bro. Then now all of a sudden you on the clock. Okay,
about
cool.
Black women. I ain't gonna go there. But anyway, so no, my call to action, I am an educator, and this is what I want, right? Because like I said, it's all about people getting free. I care just as much about our Black men as I care about Black women. If you are listening to this and you are a man who's like, what can I do to protect Black women? I promise you, family dynamics, relationships, the world, our community would be better if y'all would just commit to get together for 2 hours a week. Say, hey, I'm gonna have 6 brothers over. We're gonna go to the park. We're gonna go to the lakefront, whatever. We just gonna talk about life and talk about our struggles. That is a start. Like, y'all get healthy so y'all could be there for us, whatever that looks like for what we need. But y'all gotta start, like you said, take accountability. Bring y'all together, talk about y'all issues, bounce ideas off of each other, so then we can start the healing process so that we all can be free. That's my call to action. If you are a man and you care about Black women, get your circle together and just talk. That's all I want y'all to do.
Okay. Anton, you have something to say? You good?
No, I thought that you was going to address some of the comments. And
Yeah, we can.
Bro, you already been commenting during the show.
no, yeah, but I know
you
that
do this
they
every
wanna
time, man. You already been commenting on
address
folks,
what it
man.
is that they. Well, that's I'm interactive, but I just wanted to specifically.
I'm sorry.
Address...
I've learned the power of habits. You need to read it. I'm not a multitasker. I'm focused on one task at a time. This is the only thing I could do right now.
All right, Anton, you in the comments, so you want to go ahead and answer some of those questions?
I think that if I just look at it overall, because it is a lot of comments, it always is a lot of comments.
No, go ahead and call it out. Call out the comment, man. Hey, make it for us. Don't try to generalize it.
I think that in the same way, and I think in the same way that Jillian identified, or she called, what she felt like was a call to action for guys getting together and so on and so forth. I think that also along with that, there needs to be a call to action for women. I think that y'all need to, because I can protect my daughter. I live my life based off of the type of guy that I want her to marry. I'm going to be the ideal man that I think she should look for in a husband, right? At the same time, the 2-parent household thing works so well because I can't teach her how to be a lady, right? So I think that some of the stuff that I'm looking at in the comments is men, right? It's all, I feel like I'm pretty reasonable, right? I'm objective. I listen to everything that everybody say and I give my perspective, and I'm really open. Even when I'm open to being wrong, because I sit on a lot of the things that everybody says, right? A lot of what I see in the comments is women not being open. They want it one way, man. It's like, if I say, okay, well, listen to me, it's a possibility that I don't want you to go out there. What that is a conversation. That's not me saying you can't go out there, right? But they're saying in the comments, oh, he's scared. What? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is it so much?
But can I just say this to this, Anton, and maybe I'm misunderstanding you here, but this is just my social work lens coming out. I do think that we as women need to be held accountable, and there's a lot of things we can work on. I think the problem is that I don't think you get to say that when I'm bringing up my concerns. No different than if I'm arguing with my husband. It's like, hey, we've been doing all this. I bring up a concern to you. Now you want to bring up all this stuff about what I should be doing. Right now, let's focus. I'm bringing up my concerns. There's a space later on for us to talk about what we need to do. But right now, as a Black woman, for you to protect me, just validate my feelings. I don't need you to say what I need to do.
I agree.
Thank you.
I don't disagree.
You for that, Jill, because I want to address some of the comments that are being made about women. It takes 2 to be a baby mama. Y'all think I don't know that? I got 2 kids. So let's be clear, just to piggyback off of what Jill said. We're specifically talking about protecting Black women. I'm telling you, this is what we need from you. I'm not saying that women don't need to do something to make y'all want to marry us. I'm saying to you that y'all making us baby mamas more than y'all making us wives. And you can't even take accountability for that. It's like, oh, it takes 2. Okay, it takes 2. Yes, it does. But I'm telling you what we need. Now you tell me what you need from me to make me a wife. And then maybe we can have that conversation. That could be the next.
I agree. I don't
damn,
agree.
Both y'all in the comments like that?
I
might as well just
I'm with you.
the whole show in then.
I can't be
Yeah, just email the show then. I can't. Hey,
I agree.
That one was said.
You know me.
Getting on my nerves. So
Oh,
I
y'all
have
I agree
getting
100%.
big mad over these comments. hey, hey.
I agree. I feel like if I'm the man that
Hey,
I'm
damn,
supposed
Tawana
to
over there
be,
sweating over them comments, boy.
listen.
I don't even have to
They
say
didn't make
much.
me take these
Hey,
gloves
CZ,
off.
come get her a towel or something, man, for her forehead, man.
Protect us,
Yeah.
damn it. That's all we asking. Y'all act like we asking for a goddamn Maserati, which, you know, that comes part of the protection, maybe. But let me just say this.
So okay. So wait, Tawana.
Oh shit!
So
What?
Tawana, honestly,
playing.
I
honestly,
didn't mean to say that.
I'm just playing.
no.
I'm sorry.
Honestly, because Jillian has a perspective as it relates to what it is that she's asking for men to do specifically, right? We already identified the fact that we need to find out what some of these root causes are and address them. What's the real solution to this problem that we're identifying right now? Like, what is it that we feel like really needs to be tackled first and foremost, and the biggest issue that we need to really address as far as from a solutioning perspective?
For me,
That's a great
it's
question.
Black men being missing from our communities. That's the bigger, that's the larger issue, which is why we don't feel protected, which is why women feel this fear, right? It's this misrepresentation in our community.
Missing in what way? What you mean?
They're not present. They're not in our homes. They're not, you know, in our communities. I guess they live in their mom's home sometimes, yes. But what I'm saying is they're missing from the household as a family structure. There's a lot of men that's missing in these homes. Yes, there's men who date women, and obviously, it's a, you know, these kids are coming from somewhere. But then the whole concept and idea of family has been lost, and our communities is like suffering because of it. And that's just, and I'm not saying that a family is just a man and a woman, because obviously there's different ways to have a family, and there's, you know, different relationships. So I want to be respectful of that. But I'm just saying that our communities are missing, you know, the 2-parent households, you know, the family structure that we should have. And it's just overwhelming the number of women. And I think that's why order has been lost. And that's just my opinion.
And I'll just say really briefly to Tawana's point, I think the root cause of that is us not healing.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about, you can't be present for me as a Black man if you're not present for yourself, right? So that's what I'm saying. Get these healing circles together in y'all houses. Be more open to going to therapy. This is what I can say about Black women. We always paying to go to some empowerment conference, going to therapy, doing all this stuff, where it seems as if Black men are a little bit more resistant to that. And so I think we all have work to do. And I think the root cause of all of what's happening in the Black community is us taking a individual accountability and healing ourselves so that we can be present and there for the community.
I think that's fair enough. Hey, you guys, I just want to kind of close it out by asking
Hey,
this
I didn't say
question.
nothing, Jay.
Thank you.
I'm just saying you
I didn't
always
know you wanted.
very
I
biased
know you
to
wanted
me.
to answer.
You're
I thought
very
the
biased to
question.
me
I thought
every
the
time
question
we
was
have
for the
a show.
women.
Everybody else
question was
had
for
a
the
final
women.
thought. Everybody had a final thought.
Well, I was leading.
No,
up
you
to
about
that.
to start talking and saying,
I was leading up to it.
Lapeef,
I
let's
was leading
talk.
up to it. No, I wasn't.
There wasn't no damn lead up.
Okay, listen.
You lying.
Listen. Like as we bring this to a close, I want to pose one last question. And the question is, what did we learn? I want to try to bring value to people that's watching and value to ourselves. So I want to start off with you, Jillian. Hearing this conversation, and you guys all had great points. What is it that you learned from this conversation?
I learned that I have to be more clear and precise in my language. Language matters. And so Anton pointing out, I don't know if it's Anton or Antoine, I'm sorry, pointed out, okay, Anton, pointed out the parallel that I tried to make between my best friend's story and all of the other stories when really there wasn't a clear connection there. I have to be careful with that and probably need to follow up with him and apologize. But this conversation allowed me to be reflective in that way. So thank you for that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Anton, same question. Us having this conversation, which was a great conversation. What did you learn?
I learned that Jillian isn't as radical as I thought she was. Honestly, like I thought you were a lot more radical. But I've learned, I think the biggest thing that I took away from this is that I'm always doing a self-evaluation, and I need to continue to do that self-evaluation as far as, evaluating my role. I feel like I'm a great protector. I feel like I've been, I participate routinely in the protection of not only Black women, but not only women, but people in general, kids, all of that. Like, I don't let none of that fly at all. So I think the thing that I've learned from this conversation is that there is more self-reflection. It is okay for, me to allow people to. One of the things that I learned from Jillian is that, and she said it at the end of her video, in her live, is that it's okay to let people go through what it is that they need to go through. You don't always have to offer a solution. You don't always have to offer a specific thing for them. Oh, let me help you. What's wrong? I'll be there, or whatever like that. It's okay to let people feel what they need to feel. And then when they come out of it, when they're ready, they'll communicate to you what it is that they need to, what they need. And so I've learned from this specifically to be more open, even though I always felt like I was always open. I just feel like we need, as a community, to be even more open to what other people feel, so that we can allow them to become whole. And then as a result, they'll be stronger, we'll be stronger. Then we can have the conversation on how we can move forward effectively. So
That's good. Be next. I'm coming to you next after Tawana. So make sure you're ready. Tawana, same question. Great conversation. Like I said, what have you learned?
Oh, I learned so much, but also I learned, because I'm a very task-oriented person by nature, and so I always just want to solve the problem. But I did learn that, to piggyback what Anton just said about Jill, just that, just allow people to express how they feel and just learn how to connect. I also learned not to victim blame, and I think that it may have come across that I victim blame with Megan, but I do want to be more conscious of not coming across as victim blaming. So I learned that is a real thing, and I need to be a little bit more conscious about that.
Okay. Be next, you there?
I don't know what happened to me.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
here.
there he is. All right. Same question. What have you learned from this conversation?
I think just holding each other accountable. I think just being able to make people aware and create the spaces for people to speak their truth. But I think that before we hold each other accountable, I think really it starts with ourselves, being able to be reflective about what the real issues are. But, the part that, people really don't talk about is that, what do we stand for? You think about your own identity or what you represent, what's your brand, what you're about. Folks need to figure out what they about first before they, say what they not going to do. I think we have a lot of people that are just walking around here aimless with no purpose. A lot of this goes back to just lack of purpose of like, what is your calling? And I don't know. I mean, a lot of times it takes time for people to figure that out, but if you don't hold yourself accountable and you don't reflect, you really won't ever know what your purpose is on this earth. So the thing is, I mean, whatever it is, I think that people just need to be able to really define, like when somebody asks you, like a question on what you're about is almost like a 30, elevator pitch. You should be able to know exactly all the things you represent in that moment. And if you're unclear as the things that you represent, then I think that you need to, work on yourself. I'm not going to use the term healing. Like Jillian mentioned, I think healing is it's been sensationalized over the past couple of years. But I mean, truly, I think it has to start there with, reflecting on self in order for you to actualize who you actually are. Can't help nobody if you don't know who you are.
Right. I appreciate that. And I just wanted to say what I learned just listening to you guys. I've learned a lot. I'm just going to speak on a couple points. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and just listening to B. Nix and also Anton, I need to be like a better protector, and even Jill, a better protector of my daughter. I feel like I could do more. Listen to Anton say that he tries to be an example of the type of man that he would want his daughter to date and to marry. So I think I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to be open and honest. I feel like I need to step up and do more and do better. So that's something that I learned. I also learned I need to be more open to listening, to being able to hear you know, how our Black women feel. I do agree with B Nix when he says that that we are all not protectors, but even if you want to be a protector, even if you wanted to do it, I think you need to listen. So if something happens or an event that something happened, that you are in position to act and just not do nothing. So I just wanted to point those couple of things out. I've learned a lot more, but I do appreciate these conversations. These are tough conversations that got to be had. I also appreciate you guys being able to have conversations and be respectful, because I feel like a lot of people that's watching are able to hear different perspectives that can definitely help, that we can definitely help each other. And that's what it's all about. So I appreciate you guys listening and chiming in. And this conversation was very powerful. I will be sharing this to YouTube. So make sure you guys turn on your notifications, subscribe, and share. And I appreciate you guys. And I just want to say thank you.
Oh yeah, hey man, can we plug Jillian Facebook lives and stuff, man?
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
If anybody haven't checked it out, like she do like about like 8 videos a week. It'd be like hella videos.
I did put the link to the one that you guys referenced in the comments, just in case folks wanted to, you know, see what you guys were talking about. But
she got different specs in each video, bruh.
I appreciate y'all though. Thank you for this opportunity. It was really dope. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your perspective. It was great. Yeah.
Okay.
B-Nix, man, I feel like you just like cued the kid to come on and jump on their shoulders. Man, you really are trying to run from here, bro.
Oh, go ahead, Anton. I thought you was done.
Go ahead. No, you fine.
Can I talk about though how y'all legit like strategized and watched my video and had all this like ammo for me? Like, did I not kill it though? Like, I'm just saying, because y'all kind of strategized and had, you know, I didn't know
my notes. Look at my notes.
And I didn't know how y'all felt about this. I didn't know y'all comments. I just need to say I held my own. That's all I gotta say.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit of flattery. You know, you was decent.
In all fairness, though, you have had the leg up and being able to watch all of the videos prior to coming on. So it ain't just one-sided.
No, I mean, you gotta understand, like being on here with Anton, I still don't know dude like that. So it's like, hey, I need to know like who I'm conversing with. You know,
I'm pretty reasonable, bro. I am very reasonable.
Sure, whatever you say, bro. It must be some. Where you from? Michigan?
Okay.
Yeah, right. So that means it's true.
The best statement.
All right. Well, we're gonna end it on there. Appreciate you guys again. Like I said, this video will be uploaded tomorrow to YouTube. Please subscribe, set your notifications, and share. Until next time, we out. Right. Thanks, Jill. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
All right.